Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, welcome back, guys. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Tommy Baker, who is a high-performance coach and host of the Resist Average Academy. Tommy, welcome to the program.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So I love when I start off talking to someone and you see their email address or you see their business name or a name of their program, and it kind of says a lot about either them or their focus of their business. And so I love the name Resist Average. So give us a little bit of background on yourself, what led you to found the Resist Average Academy, and let's just talk through that whole methodology.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that. So Resist Average is really just a mindset. And really what I noticed during the years was that, nobody wakes up and says they want to be struggling in business or their career. Nobody wakes up and wants to be disconnected in a relationship. Nobody wakes up and wants to be in poor health. It's just accumulation and a slow slide towards average and loosening some of the standards. And 1% here and 1% there compounded negatively leads to some really bad places. And so Resist Average was really about, okay, let's flip that on its script. Instead of kind of sliding into average or mediocre, let's use that to our advantage and actually create something that's really meaningful, that we're seeking the challenge every single day, that we're entering in a state of thriving, not in a state of survival or comfort. And so that's really where the phrase was born. I've been saying it now for about 10 years, and, I've evolved in my business and doing different things, but now I really help entrepreneurs just get really clear and get back into a place of inspiration and purpose with their business, and then the frameworks to bring that to life.
That's awesome. You said something that reminded me of a book that I'm certain you have read or heard of, which is 212 Degrees.
Yes.
So you said flip the script. So it's kind of like, hey, 212 degrees, water's really hot, but that next, or 211 degrees, it's hot, but at 212, it's boiling. So in your example there, maybe your life is going along, puttering along just fine, but if you start taking that 1% tiny shift in a backward way, and it doesn't feel like a big shift because you didn't just throttle back, 100%, it's just a tiny shift, but those little teeny little compromises, right? Because what's easy to do is easy not to do. Those tiny little compromises now all of a sudden have the compound effect in the direction you don't want to go.
Exactly. And it's just a very easy slide to comfortable again. And, for me, I just believe we're not here to be in a state of comfort. And I really separate life into just three really convenient stages: that we can be in a state of survival, where we're just trying to make it by, we're just trying to make it through the next day, and we say things like, I'm just trying to make it. And then comfort, which is we're not in survival, but we're not being pulled by anything. There's no challenge. There's nothing on the horizon that we're tackling, and it's very gray and dull. And then there's a state of thriving where we're seeking the challenge. We're looking for improvement physically, mentally, emotionally in our business and stuff like that. And so I want to continue to take people from a state of comfort into a state of thriving, because I believe that's where life is best experienced from a fulfillment component, but also from a results component.
It makes me think of a question, because that all sounds wonderful for the person who's ready to do that. So I teach marketing at 4 universities, and I work with private clients, and I'm thinking of students. And when I teach marketing, it's typically online, and it's all ages. It could be college age, it could be an adult learner. So this is not indicative of an age category, but I observe that there is the mentality today of either I'm so busy I can't do it all, so I'm just going to be average because that's all I can do, or I check the box. Here's my job description. I've got to do this today for the boss. Check, 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 done. How do you find the people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired and are ready to take that leap, as opposed to what I feel is like society's mentality of just kind of punching the clock?
Absolutely. And again, there are going to be people that, hey, punching the clock, they're fine in that state. And for me as a marketer, this is the theme of this question, people say, I'll say, how you doing? And people say, well, I'm doing okay. As an entrepreneur, I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. And I'll go a few layers deeper and I'll say, well, tell me more about that. Like, what does good feel like? Like, go deeper on that. And I find that in most cases, we've adapted to punching the clock. We've adapted to stagnation. We've adapted to just incremental growth. And if that's where you want to be, that's great. Then I'm not the person for that. But often what's missing is, hey, can we just get honest about where we are and how we're feeling about where we are? Because deep down, at least the people that I work with, they know that punching the clock. They might say to themselves that that's okay, but long term, if we go 3, 5, 10 years down the line, if we stay in that same state, it's going to lead to some pretty dire consequences. So for me as a marketer, I'd say I invite the questions of, okay, can we go a little bit deeper with that? And furthermore, if you stay on the same trajectory a year, 3 years on the line, like I said, how do you feel in that place? And I find when we talk about that, it's like, okay, because human behavior, we're going to change from either seeking pleasure or avoid pain. And I say, why don't we do both? Because ultimately we get to the same place, which is growth.
Yeah, it makes me think of a follow-up question to that, which kind of like the old story, the frog in the water, and you turn up the heat a little bit. It doesn't feel too much, and finally it boils because you just never notices the full change. So do you find with people you work with that they don't even know what they don't know, right? They don't even know that they're settling for average and punching the clock because at some point, they have to have either a trigger or a red flag or something to go, I wonder if there could be more, because in reality, they're just kind of living their life. What is it that you would say someone could notice about their daily life, their normal daily life, and go, I wonder if there could be more?
Absolutely, and it's a great question. And just like you alluded, any change, any transformation, doesn't matter where it starts, what the end result is, it's going to come from awareness. If we're not aware of it, or we're conveniently not aware of it, then it's impossible to change. And in 2019, the dangerous part is that it becomes very easy to be conveniently aware with digital devices, a lot of entertainment, a lot of stimulus, and we can distract ourselves from what's really happening under the hood. A simple assignment I have people do is say, okay, let's do a plus or minus list. Let's go through the next 2 days of your life in your business, and on the plus, you're going to write down all the things that give you life, that give you energy, that perk you up, that you're excited about. And then on the minus, we're going to do all the things that are draining your energy, that you feel like have negative self-talk, that aren't working. And that's a simple way of taking inventory. And in our lives, we very rarely take a moment to hit the pause button, to hit the bookmark button, to just take a moment and say, okay, where am I in my life? What am I spending my most precious resources, which is not money, their time, attention, and energy, and are they bringing me life? And often when we do this, and when I do this with business owners in particular who have been in business, longer than that first phase, we find out they're doing so many things that not only do they not like doing, they're not great at, that can be delegated, and it's no wonder they feel stuck in their business or in other areas of life. And so that would be a simple audit. Okay, here's where I am today. We're not attaching emotion to it. We're just saying, here's where I am today, and is this something that I want to keep? Is this plus or minus, but do I want to keep staying in this place?
Yeah, that's really good. You've got a statement on your website that I find really curious, and it says, it's time to stop ignoring and running from your greatness. And I feel like some people, business owners or entrepreneurs, would say, okay, I'll give you the ignoring part. I kind of could ignore my greatness, but I'm not running from greatness. What do you say to people that they would feel that way? And maybe you would point out some things to say, listen, if you're ever experiencing this or doing this or not doing this, that in essence is running from greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I say that because so many of us, and I say us because I've been there and I'm still a work in progress every single day, is that we tend to minimize our value. We tend to minimize, what I said there, which is our greatness. And that could be owning our expertise. That could be owning our value as a producer. It could be as a father, as a CEO, as a marketer, whatever it may be. But we diminish our value. We diminish our expertise. And when we do that, we diminish the possibility. And then, like we alluded to and we talked about earlier, then we just settle for just good enough. And, I'm always, helping people break through the possibilities in their mind, because good enough is just a belief that we have around what's possible for us in our business. And so this tapping into our greatness is really giving ourselves permission. I know that sounds very esoteric, but like it has to start with a decision that we make internally for the external. I know you're in the marketing world. I get a lot of people who come in and they've tried so many different types of marketing tactics over and over again. I say, Tommy, it's not working. And I got to say, well, what's not working? And usually what's not working is that there's something on the inside internally that's out of alignment, or they're not fully committed, or they haven't really put in, they're finding ways to self-sabotage because there's a part of them that's uncomfortable. And so that's what I talk about when I say, ignoring or running from our greatness, because if we really own that part, all of the external stuff starts to work. The question is, are we working it from a grounded and powerful place?
Yeah, and regarding working it, your book, The 1% Rule, I see a statement that says it's a daily system. So I love, from my perspective, I'm not an engineer, I'm a creative marketing person, but I do love checklists and processes, because if you tell me something to do, I can follow that. And I find myself when I set up projects, okay, here's, the template, and I'm going to do this, and it keeps you on track. So let's talk a little bit about what the 1% rule is, and then how that daily system kind of helps people stay on track.
Absolutely. And really the 1% rule was a way, so like if we take the context of this conversation, we're thinking bolder, we're thinking bigger, we're going to set targets that are uncomfortable, we're going to leave our comfort zone. That's what I call being in a state of thriving. Well, that all sounds great, but what does that mean that we do on a random Tuesday or on a random Friday? How do we connect those two dots? And the 1% rule was designed to really reverse engineer that and connect the dots and make it so simple. Make it so simple that the activities that you and I have to do today, Mike, are so obvious, like you said earlier. Yeah, they're easy to do, they're easy not to do, but at 1%, they're right in front of us. And when those are connected to where we're headed, and the whole system is, is the 1 year vision, and then it's broken down into quarters, and then weeks, and then months, all the way down to the day. That's how we begin to create the momentum that often we tend to wait for. One of the big parts of the 1% rule is having just crystal clear clarity on the high revenue, high leverage activities that are going to move our business and our life forward, and really not spending all of the bandwidth, all of our capacity on the small work, the busy work, the operations part of it. And so the 1% rule is, okay, let's get very clear on that big audacious goal, but we're not going to stop there, because a lot of people set the goal and then they have no idea what to do next. Then we're going to reverse engineer all the way to what we can do today. And I found that if we just do that one thing today, even if it's small and seems inconsequential, we do the same thing tomorrow, that's when we create a lot of momentum towards our dreams. That's when we create momentum towards our targets. And that's when our belief and our confidence in our capability really starts to grow exponentially.
Yeah, I know that you say the 1% rule answers the question, why do some people seem to achieve massive success in whatever they do, and then others can't even make a drop in the bucket, can't even make any progress at all? And I want to hear what you feel about that, but it just seems like what you just said was, with the 1%, you're making incremental change, and that almost is like self-motivating. You're like, okay, I can do that, and I can do that next step and that next step. But if you try to bite off too much and you look at these other people achieving massive success, the tendency may be, well, I can't do all that, but you don't have to. You just do what's in front of you.
Exactly, and I wanted to release the overwhelm, because in my space, when we set targets, when we set goals, they're bold, and they're bold for a reason. But that can also have a counter effect. If they're too out there and we don't have a system in front of us, what are we going to focus on? Well, I'm all the way over here. I got to go over there. I got a long way to go. It's like a marathon is 26 miles, and if we only focus on the 26 mile and crossing the finish line, which is about a fraction of the total time that you're going to be in that race, then the chances of you actually getting there are really, really small. You got to focus on mile marker 7, and then mile marker 8, and then mile marker 9. And so what I found through this process, Mike, is that consistency just matters much more than intensity. And I think we're sold, through marketing or just general culture talk that, this, and one of the myths of the book is obviously the myth of overnight success, but we're sold that the intensity and putting all our energy into it now and to expect results immediately or else it's not going to work. I don't like that, because let's just say in the fitness example, Are you going to see more results if you work out every Saturday for 7 hours a week? Or are you going to see more results if you work out every day for 45 to 60 minutes? Yeah. We know the answer to that. The reps matter. And that's really what I wanted to teach people, that your consistency leads to really long-term growth. Early on, it's going to be incremental. But as we go on, the forces of exponential growth start to come up. And that's when the magic really happens.
It's almost like the old saying, I always attribute it to Les Brown because that's where I first heard it, but I'm sure it's been all around before him, but jump and grow your wings on the way down. Don't try to be perfect right out of the chute. Don't hesitate and don't have analysis by paralysis. And now all of a sudden, you're not doing anything. And I think that's the mentality, is just get out there and get started in doing something, and then observe and be diligent with seeing how it's working out, and then tweak and polish and improve, and then take that very next step. Is that something that you have seen as well?
Yeah, and you make such a great point. I call this the myth of clarity. Everybody comes to me, I have time, I'm looking for clarity, I need clarity, I can't find clarity. And I say, listen, we only need some clarity. You need the minimum amount of clarity to get started. Because you and I know that there's two types of clarity. There's assumed clarity, which is this assumption of what's going to happen when we go out to the marketplace, or we launch this new product, brand, or service, or we do this. And that has no real basis in truth other than just our assumptions and our predictions. But then there's real world clarity. You're actually putting it to practice. You're actually taking action. You're making the sales call. You're doing all the things that are going to give you the real world clarity. And the great thing about that is that when things don't work, but you're still taking action, you still get clarity. And when things work, you still get clarity. You sometimes get clarity on what not to do, which is great because that's just as valuable. And then you get clarity around the things that do matter. So I always tell people, you don't need to have every step figured out. If you think you need every step, you're going to conveniently stay on the sidelines, and you're not going to take action, because how could you if you don't know every step? All you need to know is just a little bit of clarity. And then just like you said, you create it through taking daily steps, consistency every single day, every single week, and the clarity starts to come to life.
Well, let's wrap up with another kind of a chunkier question, which is, when you look at some of the people that are achieving success through what you are helping coach them through, what do you find are some of the mindsets and non-negotiables that have to be followed to have people that aren't achieving success to start to get that in their life?
Absolutely. So, I kind of alluded to this just now, but just again, having some direction is super important. And I just call this, having a North Star vision of where we're headed. That's number one. Number two is becoming really, really aware of how we use and manage and navigate distractions in time and focus. And for me personally, when I set goals or help my clients set goals, we compress all the time frames down. So usually what they would think that would take a year, we compress it to 90 days. Why? Because if we give ourselves a year to do something, it's going to take a year or not happen at all. If we give ourselves 6 months, it's going to take 6 months or not happen at all. So in a very distracted world, I like to compress all my goals down and my clients' goals to really one or two big things every single quarter and put everything we got into it. And when we do that, we fill our days with high priority actions, and we don't have time left for distractions or endless meetings or analysis paralysis. We just really got to go. And so number one would be the North Star vision. Number two would be compress the goals. And then number three is to be in an environment that is conducive to your growth. And again, we all hear you're the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And the fastest way to change our behavior is to change our environment. So this could be an office space. This could be a co-working space. This could be looking at the places that we produce our work or take our sales calls or whatever that looks like, but also the people in our life and the environments and all of that stuff, because all of that energy is going to really rub off on us. And it could rub off on us, if we're around people who have a lot of limitations on what they think is possible. When you come and you share your big idea, they're going to shoot that down. But if you surround yourself in rooms that make you slightly uncomfortable or with people that are a little bit further along than you, then when you declare what you're doing, they're like, awesome, how can I support you? When are you going to finish that? What do you need from me? You got this. All of this stuff that's going to really help fuel you, because you can't do it alone. So those 3 things I find absolutely essential to long-term success.
Awesome. Hey, what's the best way people can reach out and connect with you, learn more about your program, your academy, as well as pick up a copy of your book?
Absolutely. It's resistaverageacademy.com. If disconnected, you can go on there, and I have a free audio training based on some of the stuff that I talked about that you can grab there.
Well, Tommy, thank you so much for your time. It was really great getting to know you. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Mike, you're doing great work. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.